What characteristics do you need to possess to become a great leader? What are some of the essential qualities a leader must have? In this episode, my team and I will be discussing the qualities of a great leader. And when we return, I will share with you who my guests are and we get to delve straight into the conversation. This is commitment. Today with me, I have Mr. S1E6, who is a British Council certified counselor and also works with the AR Group Company Limited as administrator in charge of student recruitment and tours. Thank you once again for joining me today.
Thank you very much, Golda, once again.
I'm so excited to have you today.
I'm excited to be back.
And then on his immediate right, I have Ms. Jaflet Amatechiwa, a personal friend of mine. She's also the executive director of the STEM Explorers Network of Youth-Authorized Systems. Thank you so much for being here, and it's amazing having you once again in the studio.
It's amazing seeing you, Golda, and I'm happy to be here with you.
And of course, we are having once again our own Mr. Ruben Anani, who has been an editor of the book. He's also a lecturer, and he's someone who has taught me what I am doing today. Thank you so much, Mr.
Thank you, Golda. I feel like a princess right now.
And so, let's go straight into our conversation. So today we are discussing qualities of a great leader. Let me start with Mr. Ruben. What qualities and characteristics do great leaders possess? Before you read the book, what are some of the characteristics that you were
Okay, so I learned from high school that a leader must have an imposing body stature. He must have an air of confidence and competence. Yeah, those were the things that I learned. And then reading the book, new things, and they are more reasonable than the things I had learned earlier. So I would say he must be a person with initiative. A leader should be someone that takes action to bring things to fruition. You are leading people, you are spearheading events, change, creations and all that. And you have people that are following you. You have people that are running around your idea. Now you must be the one to put things in place. A leader cannot wait for someone else to tell him what to do before he does it. If you do that, you are less than even a follower. So a leader is someone who foresees stuff, who knows what is going to be needed and begins to prepare himself and takes action to bring those things into fruition. So a good leader must be a person who takes initiative. You must also be a communicator. A leader has people following you. You have people believe in your ideas and your ideals and whatever. The only way to allow the people to walk in the streets of your mind to tap into those ideas is to have communication with them. And that time is the only time that your realities connect. They get to understand the vision, the dream, and then you guys work together as a team. So communication is one of the greatest qualities of a great leader.
Communication and initiative. Let me come to you, Mr. S1E6. You have served on the Greater Accra Regional Student Representative Council. So what are some of the qualities and characteristics that a leader must possess before you read the book, and after you read the book, what are some of the qualities you have come to notice?
Thank you very much, Golda. So I have always subscribed to a leader being very innovative and creative, because I took over an administration that was almost there, and so I had to come up with new initiatives, like Ruben rightly said, bring up new ideas just to get the whole administration of the regime rolling. And I did that for 4 years, and I would want to thank God that each and every time, every year, I get fresh ideas to implement, to not only impact the lives of the students, but also to change their mindsets.
And also to change their mindsets.
Yes.
One of the things I'm thinking from you is initiative, just like Sir Ruben said.
Right. And I would also speak to the communication aspect. I believe that the ability of the leader to holistically but simply communicate his ideas is something that we can all overemphasize. As a leader, you should be able to communicate to the minds, the hearts, and the emotions of your followers to buy into your vision. Then the matter of vision comes in as a leader. I mean, I like the fact that in the book, one of the things I discovered in the book, Chief was like, the leader ought to be purpose driven. He didn't say that the leader ought to have just a purpose.
You
Or
must be driven by that
just
purpose.
driven.
Yeah.
And he didn't say be driven by the purpose. He said purpose driven. It's sort of two words put together to let you know that it is not enough for you to have a purpose, it is not enough for you to have a vision, but the corresponding actions that you take to ensure that vision comes to light is also equally important. So yes, that's what I'm saying.
Ms. Jaflet Amatechiwa, you are the Executive Director for the STEM Explorers Network. Before reading the book, what are some of the qualities that you think leaders should have? And after reading the book and also being in the position of a leader, what are some of the characteristics and the author mentions that you come to appreciate?
Okay, thank you very much for the question. Before reading the book, I actually thought that leaders should be able to lead their people. I'm borrowing the word lead, but then they should have the ability to guide their people to achieve the set vision. That's the only thing I thought leaders were supposed to do. I didn't know they had other qualities or they needed other features to become great leaders. And I read the book, so I really enjoyed the chapter looking at the qualities that Chief made mention of in his book. It was quite interesting. Let me mention one of the qualities that stuck out for me throughout the book. And that was the need to be purpose driven and willing to die for a cause. Reading the book further, I got to understand that if you are not willing to die for a cause, there are certain challenges that you can't overcome. Because as a leader, you face a number of challenges. It's not enough to lead people. There are certain things that come along the way, the leadership journey, and you need to be able to have a drive that is greater than the vision that you have to be able to continue. You need to have the vision as a blueprint that is guiding you on that journey. And there should be a fire burning in you that will drive you on that leadership journey. So reading the book, that was like one of the qualities that stood out for me. And he also said that you must be willing to die for a cause. I think through my journey through my little journey of being in a leadership position, it hasn't been very long. I can't say a lot about that. But then I've seen that without the willingness to die for a cause, you can't really achieve much. You have to get to a stage where you are willing to die for something so that you are able to go all out for that particular thing. Otherwise, your leadership would be incomplete and you wouldn't be able to accomplish some of the things that you set out to do. So those were some of the things that I got from reading the book and before I read it. Thank you very much once again.
Thank you, Jaflet. But still on you. And one of the key things I take from you is a drive and then a willingness to die. And then my other guests mentioned initiative and communication. But why is it that this question seems simple, but people find it very difficult to answer?
Okay, thank you once again. I think the writer made mention of it in his book. He mentioned the fact that the question might be difficult to answer because people have different definitions of what leadership is. And I really relate with that. From chapter 1, chapter 2, we get to understand what leadership really means. And we get to know that for some of us, we understood leadership to be positional for people who are in positions. That means that we may think of qualities of a great leader from that position. So the person should probably be a sweet talker. Yeah, it comes in here, but that's like one of the things that will come to mind when we think of that. We understand, okay, there's a myth too that leaders are born, not made. If you side with this, then you also think of leadership as being innate. That means that you can't really figure out certain things that great leaders might have done to make them great, and you can't learn that. But then the writer debunks that by letting us know that leadership is an art and it can be learned.
I think I'll move on to Mr. Ruben. Share with me also, why do you think the question is simple but very difficult to answer?
The reason is because we have narrowed the understanding of leadership. It starts from the very bottom. as there's a popular saying that not every dad is a father. Are you understanding me? It goes down to to that people feel like when you are born into a certain position, that makes you a leader. When you inherit a certain position, that makes you a leader. But then there are so many things that you need to go. I mean, there are so many routes that you need to go through to be able to attain that level. Now let's take. I forgot the page in the book. The writer says that when he was young, he spent his late teens and then his early 20s at camps, serving people, working for free, undergoing his mentorship and all that. That is someone paying his dues. That is someone starting the journey from there. He wasn't put into position. He was learning to become a leader. So to become, to be a leader is not just about having a position or taking a position. It's about the process. It's about the journey. It's about the goal that you intend to achieve at the end of the day.
And what about you, Mr. Nkansa?
It is difficult to answer because, just as my colleagues have said, it has been misconstrued to be either position or possession or power, as it were. But it is neither power, it is neither position nor the possession. It's about serving people, and that is where one of the points the writer mentioned comes to play. If you're not serving and you want to be a great leader, it's an irony. Every great leader must serve because every great leader wants serve. Take a track record of all the great leaders you know, whether spiritually or people who excelled in different stages or different industries. They serve. One common thing they will always mention is, my heart was to serve people, my mind was to serve people, my conviction was just all about serving people. And I believe that is what this book is about. And that is what Leader Right Organization is about. So,
Leadership equals servitude.
yes, sir.
Don't forget, you can grab a copy of the book at the SU Bookshop, which is located in the SU Tower, which is located at Bridge, or you can contact the numbers displayed below on the screen. You could also share in your comments, you could also share in your questions. Let's get interactive.
Never in the history of the world has there been a stringent demand, call and cry for leaders as there is now. Leaders who understand where they are going. Leaders who have been where we want to be and can handhold us to get to that point. Leaders with a vision who can steer the affairs of our lives. But how do we find such leaders? Who knows where we want to be and can help you get there? Even so, how do I become that great leader? If you have a desire, a mission to be the leader that changes the trajectory of this world, the book for you is Becoming a Great Leader, a compelling read by Moses Bafoewa that takes you on a journey that walks you through how you can effectively lead yourself and those who rely on you for leadership. Now more than ever, the world is crying out for leaders who will be the change makers. Will you be one? Find out how in Becoming a Great Leader. Grab a copy now.
Qualities of a great leader. And in the chapter, the author covers 5 essential qualities of a great leader. So let me start with Jaflet. Share with me what was your favorite quality and why did that quality speak to you?
Okay, thank you once again for the opportunity. I think I have a number of favorites. I shared my first, I'll still reiterate it, and I have a second favorite. It was a bonus. So he mentions five, but he actually adds a bonus to it. But it doesn't have a story though, but it's also one of my favorites. Why this quality stands out for me is because of the fact that in the face of the difficulties, Luther King was willing to pursue his dream. He was willing to die for a cause. And as I mentioned earlier, you understand early in your journey or as you progress that without the willingness to die for a cause, you can't really do far, you can't really do a lot of things. And also, when you are willing to die for a cause, you set certain goals and it helps you know the people that you surround yourself with. I think that Arthur made mention of it in his book that sometimes when you set audacious goals, it helps you to know the people that are for you or the people that are with you. He makes mention of the fact that for people that want to join his team, he asks them on a scale of 1 to 10 how willing are they to be committed. That helps you to know the drive that they have or the willingness to do the stuff that you need to do. As a leader, you yourself have to take the first step to be willing to do certain things. Otherwise, the people behind you wouldn't be driven to also go all out. So that was one of the qualities that stood out for me. My second favorite quality was gratitude. He made a profound statement there that remembrance leads to gratitude and gratitude leads to greatness. And I think those were two qualities that stood out for me. There are a number of them, but those are my two favorites. Thank you very much.
Still on you. On purpose driven and willingness to die for a cause, the author mentions the toll of leadership is heavy, and the only way to send your people to the promised land is to give your all and get your team to give their all. As a leader in this field, how does this statement resound with the work you do?
It just emphasizes how great or how heavy the tool of leadership is, and also defines why we need certain people in our camp. As I already mentioned, there are certain times or when you want to go on certain journeys that you need a kind of people around you. If you have people who aren't willing to be on a scale of 10, that means that some of your goals may be set back because they are not willing to go all out to achieve that. So as part of my agency, or to be a part of my agency, and what I apply in there is the need for all my members to be on a scale of 10. If you aren't on a scale of 10, we'll probably drop you off, because that means that you draw us back at certain points and we may not be able to achieve the set goals that we have. So that's one thing.
It is very important that even as a leader, you are getting your team to give their all as well in the work that you are doing so as to achieve the maximum best. Mr. Ruben, share with me your favorite quality and how it resounds with you.
My favorite quality is a leader being a good communicator. I think that is because it falls within my field of expertise. Communication is what brings understanding, and it's understanding that takes people to go after the dream and achieve it and know what is expected of them. So as a leader, if you communicate, you are letting the people know that this is my vision. You make your vision clear. And the next one is a person with initiative. It's a person with initiative. If you cannot make things happen for people that are following you, there is nothing happening at all. That is going to be like a fear parade, because I don't want to be a part of an institution where there is no initiative, because if there's no initiative, it means there is no growth. It means there's no productivity. It means we are just like hatching it without any progress ahead of us. So that is one of my favorite ones. Yeah.
Can I chip something? Sure.
Yeah.
I like the points you mentioned about communication. I think I've worked with some leaders before, and I realized that I was willing to do more work for the one who was able to communicate very well. When leaders are able to communicate an assignment very well, the followers or the people who are following them are more willing to go all out to do it. So I think there's a quote, I don't know whether it's from the actor or it's just well known, but it's that to be a great leader is to be a great, you have to be a great communicator as well, because communication helps you to translate the vision, helps you to voice out the vision that you have. Thank you.
I think to share a personal experience, I was leading a group of people. I was opportunity to lead a group of people under Youth Arise, and I do remember that with my team, it's like we were going nowhere. And I've come to understand that communication drives a vision, it creates a vision, it creates a picture for people. And once people see a picture, they are ever willing and ready to move. So, yes.
And sometimes it makes the people know that even if it sounds impossible, it's very impossible.
Very possible.
So the desire to communicate is also important. Look at Moses in the Bible. You know, Moses was raised in the house of Pharaoh, and somehow he has the Egyptian culture etched in him. Then all of a sudden, the God in the sky told this guy that he should lead a people out of Egypt, and take them through the sea. You know, it doesn't make a lot of sense initially. Are you understanding me? But the way he communicated, let me take every spiritual backing out of this, but the way he communicated to the people was what made them to move with him, and they got to the sea. Even though they lamented, they didn't return. They followed him, and then the sea opened. Yes, it opened, and then they went through. Communication drives a dream. It is the wheels drive a dream. It makes the dream go through. Even in bad situations. Now let's look at this gentleman called Jim Jones. Jim Jones was able to start a church, fool everybody, move them from the enclaves of the United States, took them to Guyana, and started a life of debauchery over there. Why? Communication. He knew the power of communication. He realized that the corporate entities in the US were not taking communication serious at the time. So he created an environment where he communicated with the people, and he used the gospel. Why? Because the gospel brought people together. He chose himself as what? The leader. Are you understanding me? He was able to use communication to work on the minds of people so much that even when he knew that his end was coming, he prepared a drink and laced it with cyanide, a poison, and told them that feed your children and feed yourself after that. And after that, await eternal life. Are you understanding me? The people did what he said. It was wrong, but I think the communication was very effective. Yeah, so it helps the dream grow.
You know, in the book, the author mentions that one of the greatest communicators as well is Winston Churchill. And we are going to come back to this discussion. But I want to find out from Mr. Nkanta, why won't leaders actually do much if they are not purpose-driven and willing to die for a cause? What do you think?
Right. So I believe there is always the battle between conviction and crowd. I'll put it in a different light. The battle between conviction and the crowd. Now, it is important to know the inspiration which is causing the leader or moving the leader towards a particular goal. It is very, very, very important. But realize that one of the reasons they are unable to achieve their goal as it were, I believe I'm still talking about what you asked, is because one, they do not have conviction. They do not have conviction. And inability to communicate your goals is also a detriment to you failing woefully. Now, there are certain followers that are able to pick up from the lack of communication and then take the baton and run with it. Because they are seeing, you are communicating, but it's not the full picture. Now, we have to bear in mind that your communication sort of paints on the canvases of their minds. Someone may not fully grasp what you're saying because of your inability to communicate very well. But another person, on the other hand, may be seeing beyond what the others are seeing. And that person will be able to carry that baton and run with the idea. And so I believe that the inability to communicate rightly and also not having the right people to run with can cause a leader to fail. But aside that, If I may, or you said we'll come back to that.
You may go ahead.
Okay. You know, they talked about being purpose driven and the ability to communicate very well, having initiatives, and so on and so forth. One point I didn't imagine that the writer was going to talk about is the gratitude. I've always said that successful people are grateful people, and grateful people are successful people. You can do away or run or make your day with good communication, but you cannot do away with your gratitude. As a leader, your communication, your ability to communicate very well, your oratory skills as it were, might get my attention. But what will make me stay with you is your character. I've always said this. Just a thank you goes a long way to motivate someone to follow you. You may not be doing a lot, you may not be communicating very well, you may not have initiatives, but the thank you to the little effort that I put in achieving that particular goal will tell me that when I do more, I'll be appreciated the more. Even if the leader is not getting this communication thing right to the other members, I'll do more, I'll take the role of the leader, sort of, not to overshadow, but I'll take the role of the leader, put myself in the shoes of the leader, communicate to the people, and drive them to that particular thing. So I think it's a lack of communication, and then the purpose, the inspiration behind the purpose. Like I said earlier on, it's either he didn't just say you have a purpose or you have a vision. And he didn't say you are driven by a purpose. He said you are purpose driven. Purpose driven. So the inspiration behind the purpose, the ability to communicate it, and being grateful goes a long way to help someone succeed. Without that, you fail.
Without that, you feel with it. When we return from this break, my guest and I will be doing an introspect into Sir Winston Lionel Spencer Churchill, as indicated by the author, who exhibited great communication skills.
Nothing to offer but blood, toil, tears, and sweat. Bear before us an ordeal of the most grievous kind. Bear before us many, many long months of struggle and of suffering. You ask, what is our aim? I can answer in one word: victory. Victory at all costs. Victory in spite of all terror. Victory, however long and hard the road may be, for without victory there is no survival.
Now we are the masters of our fate, that the task which has been set us is not above our strength, that its pangs and toils are not beyond our endurance. As long as we have faith in our cause and an unconquerable willpower, salvation will not be denied us.
For brace ourselves to our duties, and so bear ourselves that if the British Empire and its Commonwealth last for 1,000 years, men will still say, this was their finest hour. Never in the field of human conflict was so much owed by so many to so few. We shall fight in France, we shall fight on the seas and oceans, we shall fight with growing confidence and growing strength in the air. We shall defend our island, whatever the cost may be. We shall fight on the beaches, we shall fight on the landing grounds, we shall fight in the fields and in the streets, we shall fight in the hills. We shall never surrender. Never give in. Never, never, never. In nothing, great or small, large or petty, never give in except to convictions of honor and good sense. Britain other nations thought had drawn a sponge across her slate. But instead, our country stood in the gap. There was no flinching, no thought of giving in. And by what seemed almost a miracle to those outside these islands, though we ourselves never doubted it, we now find ourselves in a position where I say we can be sure that we have only to persevere to conquer.
The video we just watched is one of the famous speeches by Sir Winston Churchill to urge the Royal Air Force on to win victory against the Germans in the Battle of Britain. This speech was delivered in the House of Commons. So you, Mr. Ruben, what's your initial comment on Sir Winston's statement?
I would say he's a very witty man. I would say he's a very witty man with the way he plays with words. His choice of words are phenomenal. And then I like it so much. Let me just go over a few of the things that I deduced from what he said.
Sure.
In the battle, Britain, according to what he said, in the battle, Britain had nothing to offer, but all he promised is pain and the chilling sound of battle, and their aim is nothing but victory at all costs. He also said that they are willing to fight no matter the terrain, no matter what happens. The challenge can be big or small. One thing they should not do is to yield to defeat against the Nazis. And he also says that the harshness of pain cannot beat their endurance. He's telling them that no matter what happens, Britain must never fall to the Nazis. These words are not just words. These are words that are carrying life. These are words that are carrying the most destructive weapons behind them. There is a chill in you when you read these words. It's not like empty words. And then he was so much owed by so many to so few. This explains that the soldiers were so few but fighting to ensure the security of so many people. This goes to say that the soldiers are responsible for each pain that the people are feeling. The aged, the infants, and the voiceless, their battle is to make sure that they are represented, they are kept in safety. And then he went ahead to say, many thought they have drawn a sponge over her slate, but Britain still stands. That is a very bold statement to make, because at the time, the Nazi bombers were right over Britain, and he's saying that they thought they have drawn a sponge over a slate. Now, let us go into this figuratively. Sponge is what? It's something that is used to scrape something off. And a slate is what contains drawing. You know, we draw on slates, we write on them. So if the British, if the slate is a land and Britain becomes the inscription on the slate. I don't know if I'm making so much sense here. A sponge is an apparel that we use to wipe things off. No matter how tough the stain is, the sponge is what cleans it. Now, a slate is a surface where we draw. So now Britain is put on a slate, let me put it that way. And if you draw a sponge over that slate, it means you are wiping Britain off, and that is what the Germans intended to do. But then he goes to say that many thought they have drawn a sponge over her slate, but Britain still stands. It means they can do anything, they can drop so many bombs, but Britain is never going to fall. He's just trying to rally them and tell them that they are resilient, they are resistant enough. Even though they are taking blows, they are still going to continue to mount resistance. That's how I understand by what he said.
What stood out for you in the video we just watched?
Okay. I would agree with Ruben regards to the fact that Sir Winston Churchill knew how to play with words. Some of the things that stood out for me was how he stretched certain words. It was to really emphasize it out for the people. So he mentions victory at all costs, victory in spite of, let me verify to be sure, sorry. Victory in spite of all terror. He mentioned the variations so that it drew a picture in the minds of the people. So one word or one statement would sync with a group of people and another one would sync with another group of people. But he made sure to stretch the words, to stretch the meaning for the people. And I also think he was, aside the fact that he was a great communicator, his communication brought about increased his influence. And I think that influence is drawn for communication. People, your ability to communicate determines your level of influence on the people. So when you're able to communicate something very well, that means that the people are very influenced and they feel a need to do what you are saying. We also see that he was inspiring the people to die for a cause. So when he was telling them, he was driving them to die regardless of whatever they would face in the event of that war. It was either victory or nothing, victory at all costs, victory regardless of the troubles that they would face. So I think he was really a great leader and a great communicator. That's some of the things that stand out for me.
He made his words relatable, and I believe one of the characteristics of a good communicator is making your words relatable and able to appeal to the conscience of your audience, right? And you realize that that's exactly what Sir Winston Churchill did. I have nothing to offer but blood, toil, tears, and sweat. He was putting himself first. And that is one of the easiest way you can communicate to people. If they don't see you in the picture, they are not buying the idea or whatever you are selling to them. So I believe a good communicator puts himself in the picture, which Sir Winston Churchill did. And I want to juxtapose this with a character in the Holy Book. Someone like Moses, who was the leader of the Israelites. He had a communication issue. And so God had to resort to the use of signs and wonders to communicate and appeal to the conscience of the people. Subsequently, we realized that he told Moses that Aaron is going to be your spokesperson. This is a great leader, or Moses was a great leader who had, was dear to God, was close to the heart of God. But because he had communication issue, he had to get someone to speak on his behalf. In many cases in our current government around the world, we realize that we have communication minister, someone who will be able to communicate the heart of the presidency or the government. And so I think 80 years on, we haven't lost those leaders who are able to communicate their passion, their foundation to the hearts of their audience. They are still renowned people like that. Even the writer himself is a very good communicator.
He made mention of the fact that if you are not in the picture, people aren't buying what you are selling, or people aren't buying what you are trying to tell them. I agree, because when we try to relate it to our normal setting, for products that people who patronize it aren't using, people are a bit skeptical. If you sell makeups and they see you not using the makeup, if you sell shoes and you don't wear your shoes, people start wondering, why don't you wear your products? So I really do agree with him that when you are in the picture, it makes it easier for people to jump on the wagon or willing to follow you.
My generation faces a stringent demand for leaders. Who will be the leader? Who will show the way? Who will tell us what to do? You know why? Because there are few who want to sacrifice.
Final question before we end the segment. The writer uses simple language and storytelling to communicate with us throughout the book. How fascinating do you see this quality?
I think it's nothing more than I think this quality is nothing more than a sign of a great communicator. I mean, there are stories, there are anecdotes. The language is very simple and relatable, and it makes the reading enjoyable. It makes the reader understand, because the stories are always there to enhance the concepts that he's trying to talk about. So that is superior communication skills, and it's one of the reasons I sink myself in the book. I never spoke about this. Someone actually stole my book away to the Netherlands, my signed copy to the Netherlands, because he was hooked on the stories. Like, the stories are new to him, and he can't just part ways with the content. So the writer shows superior writing skills and communication skills, and I'm very proud to be a learner from that strain as well. Yeah.
Well, I think for me, the stories helped me to understand better what I'm reading. It draws a picture for me, basically. And yes, I would agree with Serubi when he says that It's exceptional writing qualities and the mark of a great leader. Finally, share with me your final thoughts before we end. I'll start with Mr. Encanter.
Well, my final thoughts. This book is practically a picture of my life as an individual and as a leader. And to me, it's a manuscript to every emerging leader and anyone who has questions to be answered as per or as far as leadership or purpose, finding your purpose and being a great leader is concerned. He or she ought to get this book. Like you rightly said, the stories are thought-provoking. I mean, you'll be engrossed in the book whilst you're reading. And like you said, I was talking about, can we talk about other ways of communicating before we even went on the break? And like you already said, storytelling is one of the splendid way of getting people engrossed in your
and you were speaking about other things, including painting, yes.
You know, painting on a canvas and all that. So my thought is that it's a full manuscript, and I would recommend it as one of the great books every emerging leader should have and read, study, and practice what it says in the book.
Chaplet.
Okay, so my final thoughts and words. Reading this book has been great. It has been a great experience reading this book. On one of the episodes, I think one of the panelists made mention of the fact that they saw this book as a manual. And I do side with that person. It's a great guide and a great manual, most especially for young people and young leaders like myself. Reading through the qualities that make a great leader, I see the need to practice these qualities and the need to follow through with these essential features that make great leaders stand out from normal leaders. So I really see it as a guide on what exactly I should do to stand out as a leader. And that's what I'll say. I'll say that for anyone out there, you should probably grab a copy if you are looking to become a great leader, because this book is a manual and it's going to guide you on what you should do. It's more like a journey that you embark on. So you see yourself transition from different phases, right from the beginning of the book. The author helps you understand what it means to be a leader and the different definitions that have already been established to the very end. So I'll just say grab a copy, read through it, and you'll never be disappointed that you did.
We are edging closer to the end of the book. Today we discuss the qualities of a great leader. What are some of the qualities a great leader must possess? What are some of the characteristics one must have? Next week we'll be discussing the power of revision. Hello friends, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Make sure you like, you share, you subscribe and you comment so that others get to enjoy the video as well. See you same time next week.